Thank you for joining the Nonprofit Learning Lab. You are currently participating in Job Seeking Success During a Crisis. Questions are encouraged throughout the webinar. You may type them into the question box as they arise, and they will be read by our moderator. For 20 years, leadership savvy founder Julie Ha Truong has supported hundreds of leaders in achieving real meaningful change. She has led innovative and award-winning cross-sector initiatives, developed a range of leadership certificate programs, as well as coached and recruited diverse executive and emerging leaders. In each of these roles, she has expanded and trained staff, doubled revenue and budgets, and created lasting system change. Her supportive and engaging approach makes her a welcome trainer, facilitator, and coach. I will now hand it over to you, Julie.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. It's so wonderful to spend the morning with you. I know for some of you East Coasters, it's more midday for you. Welcome all. I'm so glad to join you today on the topic of job seeking success. It will be an overview of the different categories of topics that you should consider as you embark on your job search or in the middle of your job search, and give you some key tips and takeaways that you can begin implementing right away. So here's the agenda for the session. We're going to talk about really identifying and narrowing down what jobs are probably the best fit for you at this time. Sometimes the search at the beginning can seem a little overwhelming, so we'd like to help you narrow that ideal job down a little bit. Next, once you've found a set of jobs that you might be interested in, what's your story? How do you tell your story? How do you position yourself on your resume, on your LinkedIn profile, or as you talk with other professionals who might be able to help you learn about opportunities that aren't available online on job sites? And finally, once you start getting some traction, you'll be submitting applications, you'll be starting to interview. So we're gonna share some things that you should be considerate of in that process. And hopefully, as you start getting offers, how do you start negotiating so that you can be able to be in a place where you feel good about the offer that's been given to you and that you can confidently say yes to that job. So let's start with the first point, which is, what are my options? Which job should I consider? So there are really three buckets of areas that you can think about this question about which jobs are the right fit for me. First of all, really think about what speaks to your heart. When you wake up every day or over the years as you have had different jobs, what were some of the things that you were able to do in your work, in your community, in volunteer roles that really interested you? There's two ways to think about this. For some people, it's about the mission, it's about the cause, it's about the type of service that they are providing, the type of value that their clients or customers are getting out of it, and that really fulfills you as a professional. For other people, the interest may actually be more mission agnostic. You might be more of a generalist. You like the breadth, you like the macro, you like the systems thinking. Maybe that is more your interest area. Another way to think about more of this generalist is maybe you're actually a specialist. Maybe you like technical solutions, or thinking about HR and really updating the systems, the processes, the talent development. Maybe it's not a mission specifically, but a type of role within an organization that really interests you, that might be a place for you to start. Now, hopefully, that some of that interest area is from an experience or a set of experiences you have had. So you have some skills already, you have some experience already. That's the second area to really look at and dive into. It's really important that you have a good grasp of the skills, of the value that you would bring to a company, to an organization. One exercise that I would recommend you do is just write a big laundry list of the skills that you have and start to categorize them into topic areas. My goal for you is to whittle it down to 3 to 5, so only 3 to 5 umbrella categories of skill sets that you feel you bring to a job. So, for example, somebody I was coaching recently, she really likes helping her team develop and was thinking about, how do I help make a career out of that? Because right now she's only helping to mentor and supervise her staff about half the time, but she wants to spend more time doing that. So she really had to sit down and think about the skills that she has to be able to do that well for a company. And so some of the buckets were around supervision skills, management skills, and helping her team really meet deadlines on time and on budget. So there were a couple of buckets that she identified. So for you, it may be totally different buckets, but what I want you to do is feel really comfortable about those buckets. Yes, items 1 and 2, I am really, really experienced. I'm an expert in that area. Bucket number 3, I have an interest in and is really important for me to know and to be able to do well on the job, but maybe I don't have as much experience. So in that case, that's an area that's important for you to note as well. Here's an area that I may want to find more opportunities to be able to experience either on the job or in a volunteer role, or maybe in a side gig. So there's different ways to gather those skills. Now, once you have a good understanding of your interests and the skills that you can bring, what are the options available to you? It's really important to kind of look at the market landscape and understand, if I enjoyed this type of work, utilizing these skills, what types of roles could benefit from my type of interest and skills? Because oftentimes we may have one job title in mind, or just one type of role in mind. So a lot of folks will come to me and say, I want to be a strategist, I want to be a consultant. And then we try to dive deeper into that, and we start to understand these are systems thinkers. They like the puzzle, right? They like to look at the different resources. They like to work with people to try and come to consensus. Well, what other jobs allow you to do that? Is it a management role? Is it a senior level role? Is it a role where you get to coordinate networks and bring people together? So maybe it is not just simply the fact that you want to be a consultant. Dive a little deeper into why those type of jobs interest you. You may find that there are other job titles that also can help you exercise those interests and skills. All right, so once you have a sense of, okay, this is who I am, this is the direction I want to go, you want to start putting yourself out there in that way. You want folks to start to see you in that way. So obviously the first place you would go to is your resume. Your resume is a place that I want to not only capture the experience that you have had thus far, but perhaps more importantly, I want you to start creating a future focused resume. What I mean by that is, remember I shared with you the example of the gal who really wanted to be more of a mentor, to supervise staff, to develop her team, right? She's actually quite interested in talent development. Well, maybe she was in a sales and marketing role formally, so her entire resume just screams sales and marketing. Well, I'm not saying hide that, right? You can still include it, but what she actually needs to do is spend a little extra time highlighting her skills as a manager, her skills as a mentor, her experience helping to develop other peers, colleagues, professionals, and share the impact that she's brought on those people. So in your resume, you can actually order the skills that you want to highlight differently, so that it better features you not just as a sales marketing professional, but also as a people development professional. So think about, where am I trying to go? And does my resume also highlight those experiences that I've had? Because what we're trying to do here is, you are curating your story. So we want to highlight the things that you want to do more of. If you simply just highlight what you've done already, you're going to get more of that, right? So if that's what you want, wonderful. But if you're trying to pivot a little bit, help your resume a bit, help curate your story so that it tells a clearer background of where you have skill sets that are relevant to where you are trying to go. And make sure that you have optimized your LinkedIn profile. So once you have your resume updated, you want to align it somewhat with your LinkedIn profile. Your LinkedIn profile, I'm actually going to do an entire session separately on updating your LinkedIn profile, but you want them to look somewhat aligned and be able to kind of entice people, right? So what people do with LinkedIn is they'll find you, they'll look at your overall experiences, and they'll say, this person looks interesting. So a recruiter will then reach out to you. So the most important thing on LinkedIn is that everything looks fairly complete. Your timeline doesn't have big gaps, and you have keywords so that you are searchable, that recruiters can find you, that when they go to your page, it's validated. Yes, this person is in the development space. Ooh, this person is in the social enterprise technology space, right? You want those keywords to emerge. So remember, as you start updating your story on your resume and online, that it tells a story also of where you are trying to go. So put forward kind of your future self, not just documenting the past. So I wanted to give you an example because people always ask me, can you just give me a template for a resume? I usually try not to do that because there is not just one way to put together a resume. But if you want to screenshot this, just as a quick example, it's kind of my resume. It's a truncated version so that it would fit on one page. But these are some things that I would recommend. Make sure you start with a short bio at the top. Otherwise, a recruiter may just jump straight into your job experience, and you might not have that chance to curate your own story. So what you want to be known for, right at the top, are you somebody who has 5, 10, 20 years of experience? Kind of show them that you have some tenure in the professional world. And put, again, these keywords. What do you want to be known for? Right at the top in your bio. I'm looking for really specific examples of who you are uniquely. I am not looking for personality traits here. So if I'm not looking for the bio that says hard worker, delivers projects on time, right? Those are pretty generic. So here again, we're telling your story. So use this section here to stay high level, but also specific and unique to your own story. Next, I would recommend you either put your employment history or your education. Typically, I would recommend employment history goes here because recruiters, that's the first thing they are looking for, is where have they worked, for how long, right? Those are the two things we're looking for. So where they've worked, you have two options. You can put your title first and then the company, or flip it, put the company first and then your job title. It's actually up to you, and it depends on what you are trying to feature. If you are really proud of the companies that you've worked at and you want to feature those first, list the companies first. If it's actually the job titles that really describe the types of roles you are looking for in the future, that they are good examples of that, then put your job title first. So you have a bit of an opportunity here to decide what you want to feature first. For the timeline, as best as you can, cover the swath of time that you've been in the professional setting. When you have a 1 or 2 year gap, it does cause questions. So think about if you did any other internships or volunteer service, whatever you can do to kind of close that gap is really helpful. Some people leave it out because they think, oh, it's not really aligned with my job, but it's actually really important to try and close that timeline if you can. And if you have some jobs that are really short stints, a few months here, maybe a year there, you can also think about, is there a way to group them into that period of your life, that maybe these were shorter term contracts? So you can say you were a contractor. Instead of listing your 5 contracts separately, they look like you're only in a job for a few months at a time. So there's just different ways that you can share your employment history to tell that story, right? What we're trying to do is make it easy for someone who's reading your resume to see that timeline and not feel like there's gaps or bumps along the road. And again, it's not always easy to be very honest, but also clear. So feel free to reach out to me if you're feeling like I took a break for a while, I do have a gap, I'm not sure how to talk about that. That's a unique situation, and I'm happy to chat with you about it. So you'll see another arrow kind of at the bullet points under Director of Education and Leadership. There, I'd recommend having 3 to 5 bullet points on average. I had to truncate it here just so it fits on the page. But 3 to 5 bullet points are really great to feature your accomplishments. The first bullet, I would encourage you to make it something that's kind of a wow factor, some numerical outcome of accomplishment that was achieved. The second bullet and the third bullet, typically people would put what their job role was. I invite you here for that second and third bullet to list the things that actually bring you the most joy, right? And that you would like to do more of in the future. So if you were doing direct service, but you really like the people management side, make your second bullet about how you work with other people, your responsibility as you had to interact with other staff or supervise team members. And then maybe the third or fourth bullet could be a little bit more about the direct service. So kind of think about the bullet points, use them in a strategic way, because again, recruiters, if I'm looking for a manager, and I see the second bullet says management, I'll keep reading. But if you make me wait until the fifth bullet before I see anything about management, I might not get there. I might quit after the second bullet. So help the recruiters out a little bit to know what you are most interested in and want to be known for. So prioritize your bullet points. For the education section, I had mentioned that education, you may want to put before employment history. I would recommend that if your education is very relevant to the job that you are looking for, you've put in the hard work to get those degrees, go ahead and list them at the top if it's really well aligned with the job that you are applying for. One catch here is I know that some people with 1 or 2 PhDs may have received feedback they are overqualified, and that unfortunately does happen. Employers want to make sure that you are happy on the job, and so if they feel you're overqualified, they worry that you might not stay long term. So there are those type of nuances that you may want to consider, and maybe only feature one of your relevant master degrees in your biography or in the letters after your name, so that you don't seem overly academic or overly accomplished and they feel like they won't be able to utilize all of your skills. And then at the very end, oftentimes folks have really wonderful other accomplishments outside of their employment and their education history. So I recommend you to put other relevant experience. In my case here, I put other highlights at the end so that you can include all of those other things that you have accomplished, and that if you put it online, that the search engines can see those keywords to find you. So we just finished updating our resume, and next I would take that and start updating your LinkedIn profile. Again, there's a whole nother training on LinkedIn. So, but I wanted to make sure that in today's world, LinkedIn is an important player and tool that recruiters use to find professionals, especially as you start moving into the management and senior level executive roles. That is where executives go to find useful professional resources and to network with people. So yes, recruiters are on there too, trying to look for you for relevant jobs. So these are the things that you want to make sure that you're hitting when you're updating your LinkedIn profile. Have an impactful headline and summary that talks about the specific achievements that you've had. Again, not generic personality traits. Then in each of your employment areas, make sure you list a couple of job accomplishments. You can do it in a quick one sentence or a couple of bullet points. LinkedIn also really tracks to see how engaged you are as you read your homepage. Are you dwelling on certain posts? Are you liking certain posts or responding and commenting on other people's posts? And then are you writing articles? So they're tracking all that. And the more active and engaged you are, the more visible you become. So I encourage you to just start small. And the great thing that I love about LinkedIn is you don't have to do it every single day. Some other social media platforms, you have to be engaged in a really regular basis to really stay at the top of people's feeds. But LinkedIn, as long as you're engaged maybe a few times a week and really focusing on the topics of relevance to you and your career, you'll start to notice that other people's feeds will start to align with your feeds, and you'll start to kind of build this network through posting and articles. So network on LinkedIn is a great place to start fostering deeper relationships with folks that you may have met throughout your career, and also as a place to insert kind of your thought leadership, the expertise that you bring to the world. So one thing I wanted to say here is, I know today the seminar is about job seeking, but with networking, the number one thing is relationship. So don't reach out right away asking for a job, obviously, but really genuinely look at that person's profile and get a sense of what is it that they've done that you think is really fantastic. And when you reach out, mention that. Show a genuine interest in that person, and they're more likely to respond back. And finally, make sure that recruiters can find you. So there's one thing you can do is when you go into your settings and hit privacy, there's a little screenshot there so you can see what I'm talking about. Go to job seeking preferences and turn on let recruiters know you are open to opportunities. That actually puts your profile to the top of our lists so that we can see, oh yes, this person is interested in a job. And you actually get to type in a couple of things, the type of jobs you are seeing, what roles you might be interested in, and which geographic areas you would be open to. So those are all really helpful tools for us as recruiters to be able to find the right type of job for you in the right location. So turn that on. One quick note is sometimes if you're not ready to let the rest of the world know that you are looking for a job, just be a little bit careful, because there are recruiters in everywhere. And so your own HR department could see that you are now open for a job. So just wanted to put that caveat in. Fortunately, a lot of people have job seeking turned on. So people might not, just don't overthink it. You don't have to overthink it, but know that there is a possibility. You know your own culture best. So turn job seeking on when you are ready. All right. So we found the jobs that we like. We have our resume ready, right? And so you're ready to go. You're ready to launch. So when you're applying for jobs, now that you have a better sense of the type of role and job that you want, you can better focus and prioritize. It's really important that we're not just sending our resume out to 15 different companies at a time. It's actually better to focus on just a few at a time. You'll be able to make sure you make little updates to your resume. I don't suggest that you redo your resume every time. Just make small tweaks that will help feature different skills that align better to the job description. And when you focus on just a few, you can write a more meaningful cover letter. That's really important, because as recruiters look at your resume, hopefully you'll have enticed them to want to learn more. Then they'll go to your cover letter and get to really know you on a more personable level, not just what's on your resume, but usually your cover letter tells a more human story about who you are. And so here, when you submit a cover letter, make sure that you do two things. One is you share why this job is of interest to you. Don't just say, oh, this job is really interesting to me, but specifically, what about the mission? What about the role? What is it about this type of opportunity that is unique? And so they want to know that you're not just looking for a job, but you genuinely care about that role and that organization's mission. A lot of job sites now allow you to submit without attaching a cover letter. which is great because it really expedites the process. But I can tell you as a recruiter, when I see a resume that's strong and I can click over to a cover letter that someone submitted, even though I did not ask for one, I know that this person is thorough and serious about the job opportunity. So it really does help if you take a little bit of time. These cover letters don't have to be long, just a couple of paragraphs. And especially if it's a job that you really are interested in, take the time to write a cover letter, even if they're not asking for one. Please do not follow up every day or even every week. Follow up every 2 weeks is a good timeline because it takes time for an organization to review all the resumes, to follow up with certain candidates. And so give us a couple weeks to actually do some work and then give you an update. And I think it's really important for recruiters to give an update. So I'm going to apologize on behalf of recruiters for any resumes that applications you've submitted into the the ether world and never heard back from. And so that is unacceptable. But please, thank you for those who do follow up every 2 weeks. I appreciate you. There are some search engines that I listed that are relevant for nonprofit positions: LinkedIn, Indeed, Idealist, PND, and then obviously the actual websites for specific organizations that you are interested in. And don't forget to connect with associations that are relevant to your field or alumni groups. They often have their own job boards. So finally, you're starting to get interviews. And I want you to remember, people have invited you for an interview because they like you. Recruiters and people who are looking for someone to hire, we are eager. We want to get someone in the door. We need the help. We need the extra hands. So it's actually not that scary of a space. It's a positive space. It's a space where you can be of help, right? So you need to come into the interview with a friendly, hopeful demeanor. You are here to serve. You are here to help. So don't worry about being drilled hard questions. Really, you need to speak from the heart and speak with real experience that you have. So a few tips here on the screen. As you walk in, don't over prepare. Like, don't bring extra materials to the meeting. Don't email lots of different other projects that you've done as examples. Know and feel good knowing that they liked your resume. Your resume is strong. Your cover letter is strong. Let that carry you into the interview. What I would like you to do to prepare for the interview is do some research on the organization. Really have some interesting talking points about the mission, the role, what they are working on, any special initiatives. Also have 3 to 5 real life examples that you are really interested in sharing with them, right? They might feature your interests, your skills, your experience well. If you go in equipped with those examples, any question they throw at you, you can quickly pull from kind of in your mental file, ooh, which story would help me answer that question, right? So that you don't end up answering in a generic way, you're answering in a very honest way from your own life examples. Those are wonderful. They also make the interview process much more interesting because you're talking about yourself in a very genuine way. Also bring a few questions to ask at the end of the interview. Again, that shows genuine interest in the position. And we still always appreciate when you send a thank you via email or card. Again, it shows that you have particular interest in this particular position. So finally, hopefully you get to a stage where they're giving you an offer. And sometimes it happens in a blink of an eye, right? The process before that had taken so long, and lo and behold, you're here at the negotiation stage. So a couple of notes. When they're talking about salary, before you pick up that phone or before you type in your salary range, really take a moment to think about what compensation and benefits would make you happy. What is the compensation range that you would consider, the low and the high end? Take a look at compensation and benefit surveys Glassdoor, GuideStar, to figure out what is kind of their average pay for that type of position. And then when you are at the negotiation stage, you then are also ready to ask them questions around the other types of benefits. If health insurance is really important to you, make sure you ask then, and you don't jump the gun and just say okay to a salary and then find out later that they don't offer any benefits. It's important that you ask at that same time so that you can make a really solid decision. And it also helps you have one more tool to negotiate with. Typically, the negotiation process is maybe you go back and forth once or twice, but if you start going in 3 or 4 times negotiating back and forth, it does tend to kind of put a bad taste and sour the relationship prematurely. So go in, be strong about what you need to be happy at this stage in your career, and be okay with kind of negotiating 1 or 2 times. And you can ask also for a day or 2 to decide. And then for the flexible work schedules, I know everyone's really interested in that, especially in some cities, like the commute is so long. I would recommend that you don't ask that question on the first phone interview or even the first in-person interview. If you can, wait a couple more interviews or during the negotiation process and really drill down into that question. Of course, if it is such a long commute, there's no way you would ever drive there. That might be a job that you might not have applied for in the first place. All right. And so finally, congratulations. Hopefully you've now traveled with me throughout this process of trying to figure out what type of job would be interesting. How do I position my resume and my profile online to acing the interviews and negotiating a package that you are happy with, right? Congratulations, we got there. But our time together is not over. If you would like to dive in a little deeper and learn about how to really set up your LinkedIn profile so that you can really position yourself well for networking with other professionals, including recruiters, on May 26th with the Nonprofit Learning Lab, we'll be doing a session focused on just that. And finally, as you are sitting there thinking, ooh, I'm really excited about the job search, but I have some key questions or I would like some support, I'm actually offering, now I know there's like a lot of people on this call, but for the first 3 people who email me and let me know a little bit about why you would like some support, I'm happy to provide a free career coaching session for you. So please reach out and I look forward to meeting you. So I'm going to hand it back to Nonprofit Learning Lab to let me know if there were any questions that people had.
Yeah, we had a few questions that came in. So the first question is, how do we answer an application when it asks if we can contact your current employer when you do not want your current employer to know that you're looking for a new job?
In the initial application process, it sounds like you're maybe checking a box online right now or on a application form, which is a little less common these days. At that stage, you can still say no. It's pretty common they ask that question because they want to respect you and your employer's relationship. So there's a lot of applicants. They're not going to reach out to your employer immediately. Once a company is ready to reach out to your employer, that's actually a great sign. It means that you are one of the final candidates, maybe in the last round or 2 of the interview process. So absolutely feel confident to say no for that question, but later on they will circle back with you to ask, may we now ask your employer? And hopefully by then, now that you know you're a final candidate, you feel comfortable telling your employer.
Great. And then our next question is, how do you seek jobs on LinkedIn without your current boss knowing?
LinkedIn has a pretty good job search app or just function within LinkedIn. You do not have to turn on job seeking if you are uncomfortable and don't want your company to know. So a couple of things. This is a good question. One is kind of lightly update your resume. Folks and folks will start to notice the different projects you've worked on. Update your profile on LinkedIn. And there's a button you can click that says update your network. What you want is for your network to start celebrating with you some of your accomplishments, your recent jobs, the projects you are working on. You can feature those on your LinkedIn profile. You can also start to network by posting more on LinkedIn. And as you post more, your colleagues in the field will see you and you'll start to make connections. And so I call that the kind of warming up process before the actual application process. So folks are starting to notice you. And these jobs, when you start to apply, they'll say, oh, I remember her. I saw that she's in the field, she's doing this work. So there are ways you can kind of work around the edges and without turning on open to job opportunities. And then finally, the last thing I'll say about that, because we'll also cover it in the LinkedIn webinar coming up, is start to reach out and network. And so those are more private ways in which you can start talking to trusted colleagues that you are open to job opportunities.
Great. And then our next question is, how do you deal with ageism?
So there's ageism of all types. And unfortunately, I do have to work with my clients on those issues. So there are different ways that we help folks who are either younger or older in their career. One thing is, as just a blanket rule, is you only have to go back about 10 years on your resume. So you might have 20 or 30 years of experience. You don't need to put all 20 or 30 years. So that's just put 10 years and that around 10 years and you'll be okay. Now, for folks who are on the younger end, I've noticed that some have been very active in high school and in college and in post-college and have done many different projects and fellowships or internships, but their resume looks kind of a mess because these fellowships tend to be 6 months long and the internships are 1 year long. So it just kind of looks like they're job hopping when that doesn't really tell the true story. So in those situations, I work with clients on trying to create buckets. So maybe we put all fellowships and internships under one job. And then under that job, you list a few bullet points of the different types of projects you worked on. So there's little ways in which we can help to tell a story that focuses more on your relevant job experience instead of your not enough years of experience or too much years of experience.
And then our next question is, are there any nonprofit industries that are actually hiring? It seems like everyone I would normally be interested in isn't hiring right now.
There is a kind of a pause. So two types of pauses. One is we're unsure what's going to happen in our industry in terms of service provision and funders. And so there is a bit of a hesitation. However, we're 2 months into COVID now, so organizations have had to pivot. And so there are some new job opportunities because of the pivot, because of the change. And for my clients, the ones who hit the pause button, they're now starting to think about continuing, like opening up again. And it might not look the same as it used to be. Their programs may be online, they're designing new services, but they are now looking to open up those jobs again so that they can get the support because they're ramping up again. So yes, I have definitely seen a bit of a lull, but they're slowly opening up again.
And then our last question says, if a certificate is relevant to a job, where is it best to highlight it on the resume? For example, in top at the summary or separate from education?
Certificates are great. What a wonderful way to showcase that you are a lifelong learner and are continuing to improve yourself. If it's relevant to the job, definitely put it at the top or with your education section. So at the top, I actually, you can quickly mention it in your short summary, but it might get lost. So I actually would recommend putting education at the top with your certificate so that it gets noticed right away if it's really, really, really relevant.
Great, that's all the questions we have for right now.
Wonderful. Thanks everyone for joining, and thank you, Learning Lab, for hosting. You guys are such a great partner.
Thank you, Julie. This workshop has come to a close. All recordings will be sent to you via email. Thank you so much for participating in Job Seeking Success During a Crisis. And again, thank you so much, Julie, for educating our community.
Appreciate it.